out here been doing? Good. So, just telling Jill I went out to work in the yard yesterday, I said, it's too hot for me. I said, oh, it's okay. She says, you're gonna put it for me, saying, yeah, I'm so from the head, she says, you know, she yelled at me. That was in the middle of the afternoon. Okay, so, before you know, winter will be.
Okay, we're going to call the September meeting of the Warsaw Parks Board to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the August minutes.
So
Everybody
moved.
read them and
So moved.
have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. On to unfinished business. First up is the Central Park Master Plan, Design Collaborative.
Yeah, we'll turn it over to Chris Stein and let him make the presentation here.
Thank you. We're excited to be here tonight to present the final master plan and discuss where we are, next steps, those types of things, and also to address some budget numbers for these. We're at a master planning level, so we'll walk you through that, and we explained earlier to Larry kind of how we're going to do the process here. We're going to start high level and then dive into each specific feature or element of the master plan, talk about them specifically, and we'll be able to come back and forth if you have any questions. We'll zoom in on this so you'll be able to see things better. We think you can see better maybe with the TV screen tonight or the video screen versus the image on the wall there. So this is the kind of the culmination of several steps here, which began with a meeting with many of you, the mayor, Larry, and his group. And then we had some smaller meetings with shareholders, including Parks Department employees, different departments. And we've been met with the public at least 2 to 3 times and had some great input and feedback in those locations. We were, Jared and I were just speaking about the charrette we had the one day at the pavilion. Had a great turnout for that. That was fantastic. We were here for the Lakes Fest and then also here for Safety Day. Larry and I manned the tent for that and had a few people come by for that also. So this is really a chance to walk through the process and the results of where we are today. And we're going to start, again, we're going space by space or spot by spot, if you will, starting with a smaller entrance here, entrance feature off of Fort Wayne Street. And what we're really looking at here is you have the 2 main entrances, Fort Wayne and Detroit Streets, and we're trying to tie those together. This, I'm going to go back to this in a moment when we see the Detroit Street entrance. Our goal here on this one is pretty simple. Your existing conditions today aren't really too defined. You have some nice landscaping set up, and we're looking at coming to the corners here and trying to solidify those and bring some of the elements that you have already started just down the street at the entrance to your fountain. You have some concrete pylons and some lighting there, and that's our intent here. So cleaning this up, dressing it up, you're already pretty good on one side, and then coming to the other side, the other corner here, and coming in with the same thing. So you could expect to see at this location the pylons, concrete pylons with lamps on top of them, very similar to Municipal Park and the gardens there. Part of the budgeting for this one, we are going to just kind of give you budgets for each one as we go along here, and I'll try to briefly explain kind of what's in one of these. But in this particular budget, we are also coming into the corner here, this property, and there's a demolition budget in there for if you were to acquire that home. So we have demo in that. We have reconstruction of sidewalks, bringing them down to connect to the sidewalk you have right now. Demo includes the house, that garage, concrete, quite a bit of concrete down here. It has landscaping for that lot then. So remember, those kinds of numbers are in these numbers, and we won't go too deep. But so creation of the new lighting here and your new entrance piece here for the Fort Wayne, we're pricing that, and again, these are master plan numbers, between $80,000 to $90,000, and that's for demolition, that's for of the home, that's for demolition of the buildings, new construction, lighting, landscaping, it's all in that number. And I'll use this one as the first example that I spoke to Larry earlier about, which is, keep in mind, these are early numbers. So this is the type of thing where you could come back and say later, as you move down the line, and decide which pieces of the master plan do you want to implement, which pieces do you want to cut back. That's exactly how the process would work. This is just big picture, kind of looking at it now, and you might expect to spend monies of this kind. The second feature here is actually your second entrance, which is off of Detroit Street. Today, you do have some landscaping there. You have the island, and also your neighbor right there is the gas station. What we're trying to do here, we spoke last time we were with you about, it's very easy to come down Detroit Street, especially from the north, and miss the entrance here altogether just due to speeds and traffic and the gas station being there, those types of things. So this looks at a proposed arch and entranceway there, and it picks up on, again, the concrete elements you see here, hearkening back to kind of the bygone days when the park was young and you used to see entrances to parks and municipal areas like this. We like the look here. And so you're noticing the concrete elements here. The pylons are very similar. Again, we're picking up on something you've already started in a municipal park. We like those as a great gateway entrance here. Landscaping at both corners again. We would come in and redo some of that. This number also includes some work with utilities. The idea is that you would get some light here. You could power these and light these. We're also showing signage up here with possibly some branding for the park. So really kind of sets up this entrance nicely. In the background, you're seeing another piece or another element here, which is that what we're calling an education center and your greenhouse. And so we'll come back to this in a moment and talk about some of those costs. This type of feature here off of Detroit Street, we're in the 60 to 70 ranges. You're in that range. And again, that's foundations, that's demolition of what's there today on the corners, landscaping, your pylons, your footings, the structure itself, and some signage there, and possible power and lighting there. So just keep that in mind. That's what we've budgeted for that portion of the project. Our third element that we're going to is actually your greenhouse and education center is what we've coined it, versus a visitor center. Today, you're seeing the gas station there. We don't have a number in this for purchase of or any exchange of the gas station, so this is assuming that something has taken place there, whether it was gifted, whether it was purchased, but our number is actually just for demo of it and construction of this area here. So we are talking about, in this number, when you, we were talking about, excuse me, lost you there. Our numbers do include, our proposal here for this is what you saw before with the entrance. We're showing this one specifically because your number here does include a decel lane. So we're looking at constructing a deceleration lane here to slow people down, allow them to turn more safely into the project. If I can see my mouse here. Greenhouse element itself. This can really range in how you approach it. You can get some very nice, attractive, and quality packaged greenhouses. There's a lot of companies out there that sell this. Could also be stick built. So we're showing greenhouse at the corner here, connected to your education center right next door. Not very big. Both of these are roughly in the 1,000 square foot range each. So there's not taking up a lot of real estate. This also includes, when we go back to the photo here, and I'll zoom in on the actual plan itself, but the number here includes deceleration lane, includes greenhouse, your education center, parking, includes demolition of the old gas station, utilities to this, so there's quite a bit in this number here, and we're budgeting this roughly in the 450 to 470 range for this particular part of the project. The two facilities are connected. We think this is something that could even be operating in the wintertime. A lot of botanical communities have botanical gardens now, so you could still come and see plants and walk through here in the wintertime to the public, and not just a place to store. If you recall, the original reason that this was put out here as an item was for storage or transplant of the plantings that aren't native to this area. So we can do that, but at the same time, you could take it to the next level a little bit, and it could also be a facility people could use in the winter. We have our next stop here is Park Facilities Building. This is all generated by the Buffalo Street project, which now comes down, displaces the offices, and then also would be looking out over what is today the Parks Department Facilities Building and Storage and their yard, if you will. It's in a very public spot. It's always been there. At the same time, this is the time to possibly move that. It's been discussed that NIPSCO may be dialing back what they need, about a third of the property that you see at this location here, which would give us the real estate. And again, I'm not sure how that transition might happen or transaction would happen, but this is master planning level, so we're looking at taking over 2/3 of this. And we showed you last time the intent was to come in with a facility structure that's kind of two-sided, actually serves as a divider for a more public side to the north, and then the yard and fenced-in area for garage space, access, wash bay, equipment parking, truck parking, all on the south side of that. So, and this part up here, the public area, could actually also be used for overflow parking for municipal park. It's right across the street. One of the benefits, and we show it in this shot, is that you already have your evergreens across there. This will be a nice building, but it's not necessarily an attractive building that you want sitting right on your park. So you already have a built-in screen. We think that's a great blessing that you didn't spend a dime on, so that's kind of nice. We have this priced in the range, and this is a very common building construction type these days, but this is a $1.1 to $1.3 million project, actually. That's with garage bays, that's with office space, that's yard, fencing, the whole works here. The assumption is you would have a clean slate to work with. I'm assuming NIPSCO would do all the demo, and they wouldn't prepare any pad for us, but we would have a clean site to actually construct on. Adjacent to that is parking, where the old Parks Department yard used to be. A lot of the work we're doing in these areas are displacing some small parking spaces. We're really not getting rid of a lot of it, but in the course of making new items or new amenities here and making the park even better, we are losing a few spaces, so we captured those back. And I think we're at a wash or maybe a little ahead of the parking. And what we're doing is that's at this location right here where on the corner, again, right where the yard used to be for the Parks Facilities Department. We like this location for an extension of what you already have. The parking along Canal Street just winds on around the corner, pick up quite a few more spaces here, and it's also in a nice location to serve whatever becomes of that development there, whether it's retail, commercial, or housing. There's additional parking across the street there and a nice location for that. And really, it's just similar to what you've seen today. So. Next step in the process we're showing as your boardwalk. Boardwalk today obviously is beach and grass and lawn along the two areas of the park, all the way from Arthur Street at the north to the overlook or your old pump station on the west. We're showing a proposed look where you can come in and actually create a boardwalk look there. We did have some discussions. That can be a sidewalk, could be a boardwalk feel to it, could be a path feel if you even wanted it to be a little more natural. But what we're showing for proposed here from a view standpoint is you can see the pavilion in the distance, and the beach is coming in with a walk that extends that distance all the way to Arthur Street. And in this case, it's showing a product, commercial trade name is Trex, which is just a synthetic synthetic wood product over a sidewalk then to give you longevity and last for quite a while. Larry and some of the others had asked, can this just be sidewalk? Absolutely. This could be stamped concrete, could just be a path, that type of thing. If you wanted to, you could even take it back to the scale of where it's compacted gravels. You have to be careful there because this is an amenity that does have to meet ADA requirements and accessibility requirements. So we're looking at this from a first blush standpoint. I'll get stuff here, and we're at about 180 to 190,000 for this particular component of the master plan. This extends quite a ways. This goes almost all the way from Buffalo Street over to Arthur Street. It does tie together then the pavilion, a new pavilion that we're showing here, and then both ends of the park. So we do think it's nice. We're showing in this rendering, it's not just plantings for fun here. We think there's parts of it where you could bring that back to a more natural shoreline versus just lawn that dives right into the water. So there's some spots there where this could meander and walk through that would be kind of nice, we think. At one end of the boardwalk is the Arthur Street crossing. When we first met and we talked and we had some feedback from the public, one discussion here was actually a walk bridge, and that's up and over the highway there, which you're seeing quite a bit of those these days. You're seeing that done more frequently. As we looked at it and dialed into that specifically because of your location and your site here, it's not problematic necessarily as much as we think you're biting off quite an expensive project here to actually go up and over. And you're also, this isn't necessarily a project that you're driving as much as you're helping facilitate it because it would be an NDOT type project, heavy. You're crossing that highway. You need to get about 15 feet in the air. That means, and accessibility requirements, if you think about that from a ramp standpoint. We were doing some initial calculations, and we had on one side over 200 foot of ramp to make some things work. And as we thought about how can we do it more feasibly, it's really problematic. And we think you're getting into quite a few $1 million in numbers and projects here. So what we're showing here and what we're talking about today is to come in. This is an important part of what we think is your path system and connecting the parks together. We do think there's a lot of strength in that. So we're saying you bring the boardwalk to this location, and then really we're suggesting that it would be a crosswalk, a pedestrian-driven crosswalk. You're seeing these quite frequently. I'm hearing that there's a newer one out on Kings Highway even, and that's where pedestrian can come up at one side. There's a safe area there. You push that button, and within a few seconds, 15 seconds or so, it's actually a stoplight, and I know that's a cuss word sometimes. Growing up here, I know that's not, a lot of people don't get happy about that, but it does stop the traffic here, and that would be from either direction. Then they can get across to the other side of Arthur. And so what we're saying is we would have that area right here at the end of the boardwalk, cross, and then we would reconstruct some sidewalk and clean up the edge of Arthur Street there, which is a little ragged along the parking lot, take you up to the tracks, and that would be the limits of what we're suggesting today. Any stoplights, any crosswalk lighting like that is going to be, again, an NDOT-driven type project, so we don't have pricing in there. So really, we're looking at a $20,000 to $30,000 type project here, depending on what we would do with this side over here, the actual east side along Arthur Street there. So it's a lot to say that bridge idea, we love it, we get that, but it really, you would have on this side over here, on the park side, you would be on this side of the street 15 feet in the air up this high, and you would be ramping down and curving down on a landscape. So you would also be blocking a lot of views in the course of constructing and making it accessible and those things. At the other end of the boardwalk then, the boardwalk along here, beach in some areas, lawn in some areas, is Lake Overlook. We've put this on here. This came late in the game a little bit, so we don't have budgets necessarily because I think everybody's still trying to dial in on what can this be. Simply put, it's your old, it's an old pump station here, and I think at its best, it can be refurbished. Maybe the windows opened up, and this could be a nice area for seating and overlook, trying to use as much of the existing building and structure as possible. The downside of that, it is about 4 feet or higher above grade, which again, back to an accessibility issue, means that we're looking at 40, 50 some feet of ramp at least, or 60 if you're getting outside where you're not looking at handrails and things. A little problematic, probably not the best solution there. One of the discussions was, and it's pretty rough inside. There's no question when you take a peek inside, definitely a neat structure, but it's pretty rough. So does it make more sense then possibly to come in and roughly take off at least a portion of the foundations and put a deck or patio area on that? Now you're only climbing up a few feet, and now you have a nice attractive ramp that could be the other end of the boardwalk. So lots of things to do here. We haven't put monies to that just simply because I don't think there's a solid group behind exactly what it is we want to try to do there. So more to come on that someday, I'm sure. It would be a nice element at the end of Buffalo Street when you come down there for coming down from downtown or the people that are living along there. Number 9 for us then is park offices. So right now, Larry and the group are right here where that Buffalo or the Buffalo project is going to culminate into the multi-story building. So when they're displaced, discussion was, can they go to a different location? I think the intent was they wanted to stay near this area, centrally located. There's a lot of strength and a lot of good reasons for that. One of the discussions was the corner down here on Indiana, Fort Wayne. And then we also talked about during our meetings and during some of our investigation of the buildings, we actually went and took a look at the inside second floor area, if you will, of the pavilion. And there's some strength to that, actually. And that's where we landed at this point. So Parks offices right now, we're looking at a small addition along the beach here to the pavilion, which serves a couple purposes here. It's not just offices in this number, by the way. So what we're looking at is coming into the existing pavilion. We're doing exterior renovations and upgrades. We're going to do interior renovations and upgrades as well, including restrooms, all new restrooms, and some different layouts there. We'll show you those in a second. And then that second floor addition has the Parks Department offices in them. And we broke these out in 2 numbers we'll talk about in a second. So existing floor plan, very straightforward, is just the open pavilion area, kitchen and support space back in this area. Underutilized, quite frankly, from what it can be and what it used to be back in the day with concessions and those types of things. And then the area up here, which was some of your restrooms and some storage there also. Where we're headed with our plan, and I'm going to scroll in on this one a little bit if I can, is maintaining probably 95% or more, 90% at least of that interior space there, the meeting area. We have taken what used to be the long serving kitchen in here. We've relocated along the east side of the building, along with some storage and restroom space there. And part of what that does is we believe it sets up a nice venue for caterers to come, cater from the outside here directly without coming through, easy access. And then the biggest piece of this, we believe, is with that small addition here, even if you didn't do the addition, you still can open up the north side of this space right here, a conference space, and now you have views of the lake from inside the pavilion. So it's definitely your greatest amenity is views of that lake and utilization of it, and we think this is one way of really jumping in and getting some nice views of that. So picture a couple ways this can be used. You could have an event being held in here, a charrette like we did the one day. You could have, and this is a partition wall here that folds, closes up. And on the other side of this, with very little to no sound effect, depending on the wall we put there, someone could be holding a board meeting. Someone could be holding an event. Kiwanis or a Cub Scouts could be in here. Access to restrooms then. And then up in the front, before we leave this, is new restroom space here, remodeled. Completely remodeled, also with access to the outside, larger access spaces to the outside. These two are pointing towards what is a new pavilion next to this, an open air pavilion. We're showing family restroom at this location, which has access directly out to the children's playground. I think that's a good focus and a good use of that space. And then when you're inside, then we have independent restrooms that are solely for the meeting hall area there, men's and women's upgrades there, and storage. Access to the second floor doesn't change, and actually in this particular piece of the building, we're not doing anything on the south end with the second floor. It's still storage. If you go back to the north end, if you see in the plan, during the day, if you wanted to come and visit the Parks Department, you're coming down to this part of the building here, coming into a vestibule, and you're either going upstairs or you're taking an elevator to go to the second floor. And then there's also storage right here off of this space that serves for kayaks, equipment for the outside. You have rentals and concessions here also. We've upgraded lifeguard area and storage area for the space here. So if you do choose to go up or need to visit with the parks, the second floor plan then has developed a little bit since you've seen it last. And we have a stairway up here. We have elevator coming into a common core there, small waiting area, the reception area, offices along this wall with windows and views actually of the lake. We have a copy break room, office supplies back in this area, storage, and then restroom access that's off of that waiting area there. We broke that into two numbers here, like I said before. So, and the numbers we have on that particular part of the project, addition and second floor offices. So that's the piece that's the offices, adding on to it as well, to the building a little bit. We have at high 500s to low 600,000. Then we have the main level and exterior renovations, and that's the pavilion proper, if you will, the outside, meaning roofing, painting, walls, all the restroom work we talked about, updating the restrooms, those types of items. We're showing in the same range there with $490 to $520-some thousand in those range. And these are really good examples. And I spoke to Larry about that. When you're talking budgets, and you're talking budgets during a master planning, at the master planning level, you know, we don't know where we're going with the quality. We don't know where we're going with the products, those types of things there, and that does drive the numbers. And also it can be a thing where everybody sits down, you talk about it, you say, we like this approach, but we're not going to spend that, we're going to spend X instead. And that's just for someone in the future, once these become real projects, that process starts over and there is a planning process. So this isn't something that this is it, and that's what it has to be. There's no way of changing it. Not at all. It's really about getting numbers out there to think about what you might be looking at or facing in the future. After that, we have Sculpture Garden. I want to talk just for a second. I'm going to zoom in here. So we just talked about the pavilion area, which is this existing one right here. The next three pieces here are really the beginning of kind of a core or a spine and a view, actually, through the park of some key elements or new amenities. They start down here at this end with a sculpture garden right on Municipal Park that you can, that looks out over Municipal Park itself and the band area and the green lawn. If you draw that line, then you're looking at a new open-air pavilion. You're looking at a kind of a lawn or court in front of that, then you look straight through, and then that terminates out at the end of a new pier out here, which we'll talk about in a second here. We think these three things all work together. They're nice, and it makes for a really strong connection from the lake to the lawn and Municipal Park, ties them all together. So the first one we'll talk about is down right here. You have an outdoor facility or a rental or here that you can have picnics and meetings in and out here. You have another one over at this location. This is that. There's an extension of the parking lot that we've taken out here a little bit, and I'll show you. We'll go now to Sculpture Garden, and it's really just dialing in on what was parking here. Coming in with, we're looking at $60,000 to $80,000 here. You're looking at some parking lot demolition. You're looking at recreating the edges of that. You're coming in with new landscaping, and you're coming in with anywhere from 6 to 10 concrete pads, or you could dial that back and do stone pads. It depends on how we want to approach this, and quite a bit of landscaping in this area here. Again, makes for a nice key access, or holds down the foundation of that spine and connection there, and we think would make a nice space down through this location, or down through the park here as you're walking from the lake to Municipal or in the other direction. Next piece of that at the other end, if you go all the way to the other end, is actually the pier. So we talked about that view. You could literally stand here, look down through here, through the open-air pavilion, and you're looking at the pier, a new pier out there, and kayak rentals, and really a nice element, reconstruction of that pier. Dive into that for a second here. Today, pretty straightforward. It's went through several generations of renovations and tear down and adaptations, and now it's home to the pigeons as much as anything right here. The other part of this that was key, and we were made to understand is crucial, to make the beaches both vital and vibrant again, that we need to open up that pier underneath it so the natural flow of the lake can take place and currents can happen there. And so what we're suggesting in anything we do here, you can go a couple directions. You can go with a floating pier system. You could also go with piling or pylons on there, and then create or construct a pier system that could look almost like it does today. We're showing it looking more like a boarded pier using Trex again, and more of a dock look. So that in mind, we're simply showing a new pier here from looking back. Again, you're seeing the outdoor pavilion for one of the first times here. And you're also seeing, as you look through that pavilion, that's the sculpture garden all the way down at the end that sits at Municipal Park. So the idea of that spine there really connects the arts, connects the lake, connects the community open area here, is taking place and coming to life here. We talked about that. We're showing, again, more of a pier feel to this. And we're also showing, if you look down here, areas you can customize these piers, modify the piers so that there are locations for docking. So if you're renting, and I think that's one of the big things that our community feedback gave us, was the idea that they could come down and rent kayaks and canoes and those types of paddle boards or whatever. And the idea you could lock them here or moor them here, and then these could even have numbers, and they could be, come down and get kayak number 6, and you could have this on both sides. You could have more of these here. You can also do bump outs for seating. There are a lot of things you can do along this. What we're showing today comes out, I believe, approximately 180 feet, almost what you have today as far as what we're replacing. And we have a budget number for that one of about 180, 195, including constructing. We do have some demo in there of the existing pier. That's a bit of a wild card just because of its construction type, and obviously we're on the water with anything we would do. And that's another one of those where not sky is the limit, but what are the amenities, what are the features you want to have with that? So where are you dialing it back? What we're showing today is pretty straightforward, but it does make that connection, we think, and it's a nice addition. You're seeing in the background while I'm here, you are seeing also that addition and the windows to the back of the old pavilion, the existing pavilion today. You're seeing windows down below that would look into the existing meeting space, and you're looking at concessions here. You're looking at overhead garage door here for storage for kayaks and equipment out here. So that addition is shown in this, and it only comes out 15 or so feet maybe. But it's pretty critical to a lot of things happening at this location. So, and then you got a glimpse of it already. But the last piece of the master plan, from a amenity and feature standpoint, is open air pavilion. This got also a lot of feedback or a lot of comments, and was looked at as a really desirable option here. Today, you're looking at a lawned area here, just lawn and some trees there. Keep in mind that we do take this serious. We do love the park and the look of that, and even as an office, it's important to us that the green look here and maintaining what it is as the park is important. So anything we're doing here, if you're seeing us taking a tree out, if it can't be transplanted, we're planting 2 trees type of an approach in its place. So we did have some nice feedback on that, and wanted to make sure that we're being considerate of that. So this is actually the location. You can see the old pier here of what we're looking for the new open air pavilion. This view here, you'll see a winter view of this location, almost the exact same location here, seeing the old pavilion exterior here. The chimney could be torn down. It's not necessary. It's being used for anything, so we'll clean some of this up. We have a few different looks here. Oops, lost you there. Sorry. I'm going to get you motion sick now. This is the existing pavilion here. There's a walkway and concrete patio down between the two for seating. We'll show you a proposed evening event that might take place. We're using trussed arches, or some arches in here that are custom. We're looking at timber frame type of look. You're seeing these structures today. They could be glue lambs, which are your large beams that are manufactured. A lot of different ways. We're going to this approach just because we think it's got a nice kind of throwback look. It can work with the existing building. Also, we'll show you here, we're using stone wrapped pillars here. If you look over here at the old building, we've actually used them on that also. So we've come back to your old building and your old columns and tied the two pieces together so they look like sort of sister structures, if you will. This is a wedding that you might see in here. You can see the couple there, so everybody's looking out at the lake in the evening or during the wedding. And then there's seating down through here. This is a concrete or a deck type patio, again, depending on what direction you go there. And we're coming in and softening some of this up with landscaping in this area. Get an opportunity to do that. We just look at this as a nice opportunity for weddings, gatherings, events of that nature. This is an open air facility that it's been critical from day one. We were charged with this needs to be able to use to be used as many days of the year as possible, and it can't be closed for the season type space. So we're looking at that's something you might see in the summer, a wedding or an event there. This is in the fall. You're seeing some renovations to the existing pavilion here that we talked about in that number, possibly some new branding up here, new roofing. We're showing this with a shingled roof on this. You could put a metal roof on the roof instead if you chose to. But again, we're dressing up the outside of the old building, seeing the new pavilion here. Could be the open air market happening there, showing it on a nice sunny day, but your open air market could happen, their farmer's market on a rainy day with this type of facility. So it does actually help you there. You could also host small concerts here. So Larry and I talked a little bit about how often the municipal park concerts happen, what size, those types of things. And there are some that might get rained out, not stormed out, but rained out, that could happen in a location like this, or you may find other people with those ideas wanting to rent this space for that use. I want to go back here real quick. Part of this idea, too, is that these two really can work together. They could happen, have two events going on at the same time. But the idea of a wedding happening out here, and then they're simply walking across the walkway here, and they're into your existing space right now, and that's where the tables are set up for the evening and for the dinner, is a really nice relationship for those. Proposed summer event, again, we're talking about, we go back to this because really this is how it's used. You could be rollerblading inside this. It could just have, you could have all kinds of group activities happening in this location. And then we're showing a proposed winter shot. This is, if you add the element of ice to this and this becomes a rink, then this can be used well through the winter and into the spring here in Indiana, at least for a few months. And we think it adds a nice amenity with the lake out there. Again, the connection to the pavilion and how it's used today. That can be your restrooms. If you noticed, we increased that restroom count that can be used from the outside is increased here. You can also use the pavilion, could possibly use for some warming areas, and we'll work through some of that someday when it becomes an actual project. But again, you're seeing how this can add a feature or add to this. And I'm going to go back. So that view you see there is essentially this view today. The number we have for here is, we broke this into two pieces also. The full-in number, including ice, is essentially, if it had built-in ice in this project, you're in the we have this at 2.5 to 2.8 million. And again, That's a 10,000 foot view of this and the pricing of this. So we can come in and look at this, dial it back. These are amenities you need. We can add amenities. That number also includes, you see just here on the side, there is a support structure here that would have your mechanical equipment for the ice. It would have equipment you would need, actually any kind of equipment you want to store in there, facility for outdoor events. It would have your a small Zamboni in there. Those types of things would need to be stored somewhere, and you want to store them on site, obviously, during the season. But also it's a good location possibly for a warming area there. So right now, that does include that in the number. The breakout of that is, and this is an approximation because we don't know the ice system that we would head down, but 700 to 900,000 of that could be associated with just that ice rink itself. So those are the two pieces of that. All in, though, if you did it all at once, you're upwards of 2.8 million on that. So. And again, that's including all new construction here. That wasn't brief, but that is a walk through all the amenities and parts and pieces and features we see in the master plan that we've developed here. Like I said, we have rattled off some numbers for you. We wanted to get those in front of you. But any questions that I can go back to, anything you'd like me to highlight or clear up?
I have one question. You mentioned that Trex has a decking for the boardwalk, right?
Correct.
And you would use that for the pier also?
You can. Yes, you can. And that would probably have a structure underneath it, substantial structure underneath it, actually, because we're about 10 feet wide on what we're showing for the pier out there.
What is the service life of that?
It's a synthetic product. It'll last. You have warranties there probably in the 10 to 20 year range on some of those. You're going to get, if you've seen the product, lower end versions of it at big box stores, and the reason you see it in grays and beige is because of the sun and the UV and the effect that has on it. So as long as you're not trying to do something out there that's dark pigmented or something of that, it's going to last quite a while if it's installed properly.
Just as a curiosity, how frequently does NDOT allow something like the crosswalk on a major highway like this?
I don't know the frequency. That's a very good question. I don't know how frequently they do that. I know they do entertain it. And Highway 15 is such a heavily trafficked road that it needs something like that, even if you guys weren't showing up as the source for it, if you think about it. Nobody wants to introduce more stoplights. I understand that. We have examples. Of course, the Kings Highway, as an example over there, is one locally. The Allen County has had an initiative for over 10 years now with the paths over there. And I think that was one of the things that a lot of people at first thought, well, that's never going to happen. No one's going to let you put crosswalks at these roads. And they did. And Highway 24, Jefferson out of the south side, all your major roads have these. And people are fine with it. And it really does work. I utilize them all the time. And you can find them in a lot of any community who's doing a full, rich, broad path system of any kind is definitely addressing it. It's, excuse me.
I see them at the Goshen and Middlebury, the Pumpkin Bomb Trail too.
Exactly.
Well, that's also close to the boat ramp, right?
It is. Yeah. That area over there you're right next to the boat ramp, actually. You're at that area there. And the boardwalk actually, I think, could go on down and does connect to that area there. It's a step-by-step process. The best answer is really it's sitting down with your local reps, and I'm sure Larry works with them. I know your city works with them for sure all the time, and just saying, what's it look like? What's the length of this process? It's not short, and I spoke with Larry before this saying, that is a lengthy process, and it is all just like the way you guys run with allocated budgets, no different there. So it would definitely be a nice amenity there. I think if you could get that, you get on down Arthur Street, and it's in the structure's kind of there. You get into the motocross bike park. You're almost to the edge of Pike. It'd be a nice connection.
On the Fort Wayne Street entrance, is there anything there to identify it as a park? I didn't see any signage.
Well, we didn't develop so we didn't develop for this particular presentation what happens there, but it is essentially, our intent is if you were standing by Municipal Park right now looking at your fountain that steps down, it's flanked by, I'll go to this one here. Municipal Park is flanked by some concrete pilasters, and then they have lamp posts on top of those. That's actually what we're suggesting for the Fort Wayne Street entrance on either side. So just like here, on one side you've got the concrete, this is carrying an arch, and we talked about that originally. Do you do the arch there also? You certainly could. And it'd be wonderful, and it would make a definite connection. But we dialed that one back a little bit and said if we just did the concrete bollards there, the pylons there with lighting on it, and flags, maybe some banners on those, do the landscaping, it at least connects or makes the same statement. But quite frankly, we sort of took a liberty there and said, I don't know if we want to spend that much money there. Detroit Street probably could use a little more of that allocated there, but that's what we would do there. So had a similar look.
Not only be a great entrance during the spring and summer, but Sean and I just had this discussion today about arches over the road for the Christmas display. I mean, it'd be a great opportunity to really light that up as you're coming into Central Park, to have the Christmas display and give us kind of like, okay, now you're in Wonderland, so, just something to think about.
And funding for these things is obviously always the biggest issue, but those are things sometimes some people get behind and they think that'd be beautiful to have that. Used to be very common, state parks and municipal parks all around. I know my dad has talked about that before, how those things have changed, and you guys are have already taken a step, quite frankly, back in that direction. I think it's nice, so.
All right, great. I think you've done a really good job.
Probably took longer than you wanted me to, didn't I? Did I lose you? Thank you. Thank you.
It'd be nice if we could just go like that.
I know.
Have it all
Yeah.
the time.
And that's really the next steps is for you guys now to take this. We're still here. We'll probably meet with any of you who want to. We can sit down and go through costs again and talk about different approaches people have used, those types of things. And we did do that. So we do have a professional estimator in our office that's running numbers. We're running numbers as architects with our experience. And then we're also going out and looking at examples that are being built currently. And there's a lot of public, obviously anything public is available, and we're looking at those as, comparing those three items, and you're getting pretty close in the ballparks here, so.
All right,
All right.
appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate it. See if we can shut this down.
Okay, next thing we have on our agenda is iStrike lightning detection system.
We're going to get it up here on the screen if you'll bear with me a second here. Technology is nice, but it takes a little time. All right. Well, Sean and I, last week, we had Greg from the Weather Service call us, and we did a conference call with him, and we were educated on the admin side of this detection system. And as you can see on the screen here, there's three rings. The three rings right there. There's the yellow, the orange, and then the red. The way this works, if we put this into motion here, I mean, the radar as it comes across, I mean, it's a live radar, it'll move. Of course, what we're waiting on is the actual boxes themselves. There'll be one at Center Lake, one at Pike Lake, one at Central Park, and one at the campgrounds. So as the storm moves in, or lightning detection moves in, as it gets to the yellow, it'll send us a signal, a text, something like that, a warning where we want them to go, and we have capabilities to send them anywhere we want. As it gets to the orange, it'll give us another detection. And, you know, when it's at the yellow, you know, if we're having a concert or something going on, I mean, that's gonna give us a warning that there's something around. I mean, we need to be aware. We can let the police officers know, we can let the public know. When we get into the red, this is when the audible alarm and the strobe alarm will go off at those locations. We have the capability of setting those times. I'm going to show you here on this screen here. See, we can go in here and we can set the distance for the red, the orange, and the yellow as far as we want them or as close as we want them. And that's something that we'll have to just kind of play with and get our range. Every system's different. You know, if you're on a golf course, it's a little bit different than being in the park where a concert is or something like that. But we have the ability to set those ranges. We also have the ability to set the decibel, how long that decibel goes off, when it comes back on and gives the all clear signal. We have the ability to set the time when it does that. Say it's 5 minutes, 15 minutes, half hour, whatever it wants to be. We also have the ability down here, and we'll have other screens when we get the boxes, but we can set the time when they're active. So for instance, if we're at the campgrounds, and the campgrounds has a quiet time from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., well, we don't want the sirens blasting into somebody's bedroom or their camper right there. So we would simply just have a strobe alarm out there at the off hours. During the day, we would definitely have the audible alarm because people are in the campgrounds, are using it. So it would be a warning source. So we have that flexibility at any location to adjust those. And you know, the beaches will probably be 24/7, not only for the swimming and the lifeguard situation. If the lifeguards aren't there, this will be a warning. But also at night, we have a lot of fishermen at night there. You know, this is a good indication. Hey, there's danger. You know, lightning's coming. You know, pick your pole up, get to safety. And then they see. When they're all clear, it's a different sound, audible, all clear, and a different flash. So we know it's all clear, you can go back, you're safe. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of this. There is the delay for the boxes has been due to a cellular component. You know, you can think of 2G, 3G, 4G, LTE. They're upgrading them. They could have shipped our boxes out with the old stuff in it, but they're putting the new stuff in it. The cost isn't going up any at all to us, but they're getting those, and we should have those next week or at the latest when Sheila goes down to the National Park and Recreation Association meeting in Indy, which is a week and a half from now, next Tuesday. So we can obtain them there. That's when they're supposed to be. So yeah, this was all brought to us by a donation or a grant from the Kosciuszko County Community Foundation, and we're excited to see this implemented. We've already had requests. I've got Channel 22 is online. He's emailed me about once a week. They want to come down and do a little story on this, and public education is going to be big on this. You know, we get it on the TV, we get it on social media, and you know, maybe we even do a little signage at each place until the public is aware of what's happening and going on. But I think it's going to be you know, just another safety measure for our park system. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of that, how it worked, and the capabilities we have. One of the other capabilities that I didn't know we have these units at each location, but we actually have the ability to go down, I believe it's this one right here, let's see here, one of these toggles, yes, change the location of this monitored location. So let's say Sheila's having an event at Kelly Park. Now we won't have the audible or the strobe out there, but we will be able to take our phone or our laptop or anything like that out there and say, okay, pin us at this location. Now it'll locate us, this circles will be at our location, and we'll be able to tell if weather's coming in on an event like that as well. So that's kind of a nice feature that's mobile, and we can move it, so if we have events in different places. So, any questions? I mean, I just wanted to just kind of show you where we're at on that. As if I toggle down on here, you can see that you know, Chris, who is out and about, or he's doing our garbage and he's doing a lot of projects in the park. He's getting alerts, not only to tell the public, but to tell, you know, our workers. Sean and Sheila are both getting updates and text, you know, as everything happens. Heather's getting it in the office by email, updates. So if there's any calls to the office, I mean, she can let people know what's going on, so, a lot of versatility to this program, and, I think it's gonna be really nice, so hopefully here in a couple of weeks, we'll have them mounted, and then, we can dial them in, so to say, and, really make them work for us.
I guess you answered the question, there'll be multiple signage so people know what the strobe or the sign
I
is
think
going
that's what
off
we're gonna
for.
have to do, Larry, to educate. I mean, TV, social media, I mean, that'll cover a lot of it, but I think we still need some kind of signage there to not only, you know, if they're just walking to the beach or in the campgrounds, they can read that and know when something does happen, what actually it means. So, yeah, absolutely.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Do you have capability to add a user, so if you get an assistant director that you can put another person on, or?
I think we can, yes, yeah. Mhm. Yep, absolutely.
Any other questions? Okay,
Okay.
thanks, sir.
Mhm.
New business, Kelly Park Playground and Sledding Hill.
Okay.
Two.
Yeah, that's me too. I'm gonna go on here and get this, try to dial this in. Sometimes my fingers are too big for this thing, but we'll try it here. See if I can bring up Kelly Park down here. Figure out where I'm at here. And I think I gave you, kind of put a handout in your package there as well, but just to give you a little update on what's happened at Kelly Park, we were able to take advantage of a Game Time grant opportunity through Game Time. If we purchased, our budgeted amount was $45,000. So if we spent $45,001, we were able to match 100%. And get $90,000 worth of equipment. So that's in the process. I think I put some pictures of what we've looked at there. That's a huge structure. It's about 75 by 60. I mean, it's going to be a great asset for there. But what I wanted to show you is, as you well know, in our 5-year master plan, we had a kind of a concept design for Kelly Park out there. The sledding hill is kind of taking place right now. We actually got some more dirt. This area right over through here has been added from a stormwater project. We just got that yesterday. They're going to do that, so we've got more dirt. We're about probably maybe another project away from having all of our dirt out there to where we can really configure this and make it like our conceptual drawing with ADA accessibility to the hill and everything else. So that's in the works. We have removed this tree right here, just for safety. As the sledding hill gets higher and higher and people coming down, we took advantage and took that down, and G&G helped us and they removed the stump for us, so we got that out. As we move forward with the playground in this area right here, we want to basically bring it across here, and it won't go as far as it is now, but it'll come right in here somewhere. And this area here will be the new playground structure for this phase. We still want to have room here to put swings in the future, and then we want to have, this is 5 to 12-year-old stuff over here. We want to be able to have in the future for 2 to 5-year-old stuff in this area right here. So when Sean and I met with the reps from Game Time, they asked us what kind of equipment we want out there. Well, we wanted something that was traditional for the kid that wasn't so active or strong, but yet we wanted part of that to challenge kids. So we've kind of got a hybrid, as you can see in the diagrams I gave you, of something that takes strength and coordination to do, or you can work on your strength and coordination, or you can simply do slides, or you can climb on the platforms. It's kind of a combination of both, so we felt that was the best of both worlds. As you can see where we're going to put this, we've got 2 huge large trees right here that are decaying pretty good. We would like to ask the board permission to go ahead and remove these trees and prep this area yet this year. We should get shipment of the playground probably November, December of this year, and we have to store it, but then we would start construction of the new playground in the spring. So I just hate to try to work that around those trees and then have that decay fall on the area and do that. Of course, as we've always did, when we remove trees, we'll certainly, in the landscape of things, in our overall design, we'll replant trees and replace them. So, you know, that's kind of the way we do things. Anytime we lose a tree, we plant one or two more, of course. So we always want, you know, the future generations to have shade as well and enjoy the park. So it's just kind of an overlay of where we're at with that. I don't think I missed anything here. Yeah.
You would like a motion for those trees to be removed?
Yeah, I'd just like
Okay.
permission from the park that we can go ahead and remove that, and the old playground there, the merry-go-round, and the swing sets there, so we can start
Okay.
prepping that area and getting it ready.
Do we have motion to do that?
Yeah, I'll move that to give permission to go ahead and remove those trees as
Okay,
per
motion
Larry's
made. Do we
recommendation.
have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Perfect, well, thank you. We're excited about, you know, every time stormwater comes and says they have another project, it's just more free dirt. You know, like I said, we're one project away, and then after that, we can certainly sit down, and if our budget goes through this year, we can get the parking lot on the south side here, basically from here to here, all the way, so we have entrances and parking on this side, and then that'll be an essential part of the sledding hill, and then once we obtain all the dirt, then we can go ahead and have it graded and, you know, start our master plan there. So it's well on its way. It was just, the project's kind of kicked us off. I mean, you know, to buy that dirt, we're probably up in the $200,000 range, you know, to wire all that
Yeah.
dirt and get it in there. So G&G has been nice on, they've got the two projects they've worked with us, and you know, hopefully in the future we get enough to finish it off and make it happen. So
Larry, Mike,
exciting stuff.
did I understand if you went out and bought this, this would be a $90,000 piece of equipment?
Correct, yes, yeah. We had did this wrong for a lot of years, I mean, clear back, I mean,